Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'll be showing you how to work with anchors. Earlier I taught you about positioning, right? So there were three things. One was XYZ positioning, the second was anchors, and the third was layouts. So we'll talk about layouts later when we learn about column layouts, row layouts, and other components, right? In this video we'll be talking about anchors and how to use them. In most of the projects you'll make, I think anchors will suffice, and knowing about this is very useful, right, when you work with projects. So anyway, let's revise the basics first. Like if this is the window and you want to create a rectangle, it will be created here, right, in the top left position. And if you want to place this rectangle somewhere else, like here or here, then you have to set the positioning of this element. We talked about x and y, right? But as you have seen, like it's very tedious and it requires a lot of mathematics. Like you have to do something like parent.width minus content.width by 2 and something, right? So it's not very useful, and it's also not very used in working with responsive layouts. I hope you know what responsive is, right? Like if you change the width of the screen or the height of the screen, then the elements should also position themselves properly, right? So for that we use something called anchors, right? So in this video we'll be talking you we'll be learning about anchors. So let's get started. I'll be opening Qt Creator. This is a basic application. There's a window and there's a rectangle inside that window, right? Let's run the application once and you'll see it's in the top position. So first let's try to bring it to the top right position, right? So one way of doing that is to use x and y coordinates, and we have talked about that. And so I think that's very tedious and it's not very practical to always implement x and y, right? So the second thing is using something called anchors. So initially, if you know, there are four properties of anchors. One is called left. One is, let me use the whiteboard for that, right? So let's say this is the parent window, right? This is the left, this is the bottom, this is the right, this is the top, right? It's very simple. It's the left part of the window, this is the bottom of the window, this is the right, and this is the top of the window. Now let's say I have a rectangle and I want to place it. I want it to be like this, right? So what I can say is, hey, if this is the right of the window and this is the right of the rectangle, I want both of them to be the same. I hope you're getting me. This portion is the right side of the window. This portion is the right side of the rectangle. Here I want both of these right portions to be same. So let's see how we can implement that. What I'll do here is I'll say anchors dot right is nothing but parent dot right, RIGST. Right? Let's run the application once. And if you see, the rectangle is on the right part. Now what just happened is very simple. If you see this diagram, this is the window, this is the right part of the window. Initially by default, if you create a rectangle, it's created here. So the left part of the window and the left part of the rectangle are the same, and similarly the top part of the window and the top part of the rectangle are the same. Now what I've done is I've said, hey, forget about this. The right part of the window, sorry, the right part of the rectangle, this part should be equal to this part, right? So what happens is this left part is which was by default, which was set by default, this is overwritten, and now the rectangle is created like this. See, we did not modify the top property or the bottom property, right? So it remains the same, but this positioning of left and right changes. Let me show you what happened. See, if this is the window, this is the default. By default, the anchors dot left is set to parent dot left, and anchors dot top is set to parent dot top. Now, as soon as you change either the left or the right property, this default part is removed, right? And then whatever you defined, that will take priority. So if I remove this and run the application once, you'll see the rectangle is again created at the top left. Listen, yeah, this is equivalent to, this is almost same as me saying anchors dot left is nothing but parent dot left, right? If I run the application once, you'll see like it's still the same. Yeah. Now I hope this is clear to you. Now how to bring it to the bottom, right? So what I can say is anchors dot bottom is nothing but parent dot bottom. And if you look clearly, like the left and right are not modified, right? I'll commented this out. So by default, this will take place. It will be at the left part of the window and at the bottom of the window. So bottom left. Let's see. Yeah, it's in the bottom left, right? Because we did not mention left or right, so it will be the default value, which is left. Since we mentioned bottom, we mentioned bottom, so the top part is overwritten, the default one is removed, and now the bottom part of the rectangle is the same as the bottom part of the window, right? I hope this part is clear to you. Now here's a challenge task. We want to implement something like this. If this is the window, the rectangle should be like this, right? Now how to achieve this? Okay, for that let me show you something. If this is a line along the x-axis, right, this is a horizontal line, we called it the horizontal line, and whatever this is, it's called a vertical line, right? This is called vertical line. So anywhere like this is horizontal line, this is also horizontal, and this is vertical, right? Now I want you to think very clearly, right? If this is a window, right, and this is a line, this is a line, this is a line, all of these are horizontal lines, right? If I tell you what is the center of the horizontal line, it will be this part, right? This part, this part, this part. If this is a line, the center will be this part, right? For this window. Therefore, if you can observe clearly, the center is, like, if you somehow calculate the center of this horizontal line, you will get the center of the rectangle, right? And if you like okay, now let me show you what a vertical line is. I'll explain it again in depth, don't worry. These are all vertical lines, right? And what is the center of a vertical line? This part, this part, this part, this part, right? These are all the vertical centers. So if I say a point is here, which is the center of the window, then it's also the horizontal center and the vertical center, right? Now I hope this part you're not getting confused with this part. Now let's say I have a point here. Here only the horizontal center thing applies, right? Here the horizontal center and the vertical center applies. Here horizontal center applies. Here vertical center applies. Here vertical center applies. I hope this part is clear to you, right? I hope you're not getting confused. Like if this is a window, this is the horizontal center. This is the horizontal center. This is the horizontal center. This is the vertical center. This is the vertical center. And okay, here it's both. Like here it's both horizontal and vertical, right? So I hope this was not confusing to you. Don't worry, we'll work through some projects and it will be more clear, right? So what was my target, right? I wanted a window, but the rectangle was somewhere like here, right? So it's at the top, but at the center of the width, like here. Now if I say this width, it's a horizontal line and the center will be horizontal center, right? So what I'll do is I'll say anchors dot top is nothing but parent dot top. If you don't write it, it's still the same. It will by default be the top, right? And then I'll say anchors dot horizontal center is nothing but parent dot horizontal center. Sometimes autofill will not work for you, don't worry. So now let's try to run the application once. And if you see, it's at the top middle, right? Now if I say, if I remove this, right, and I remove this, and I simply say anchors dot vertical center is nothing but parent dot vertical center. Don't mind my spelling, please. Yeah. So what happens if I just say this, right? By default, we know left and the top are set, right? But as soon as we say vertical center, the top part is omitted, right? What does vertical center mean? It's this line. If this is the line, this is the vertical center. If this is the line, this is the vertical center. If this is the line, this is the vertical center. If this is the line, this is the vertical center, right? So anyway, by default, anchors dot left is nothing but parent dot left. So rectangle will be like this, and the center of the rectangle will be this vertical center. So let's see. Yeah, as you can see, it's at the center vertically. Now, what happens if I set both? What do you think will happen? Let's see. If I set both of these, horizontal as well as vertical, yes, it will be at the center of the screen. Let's run the application once. Yeah, it's at the center. Now, if you increase the window width, you'll see it's still at the center. Here also at the center, and if you increase it more, it will still be at the center of the window, right? That's why it's responsive. Now, instead of like mentioning both horizontal and vertical, a simple way of doing this is, sorry, my bad. If I comment both of these out, another way of centering it is, we'll just say anchors dot center in parent. Internally, this will do the same thing, right? It will set the horizontal and vertical center. So internally, this does the same thing. Let's see. Yeah. So as you can see, it's at the center. If you increase the width and height, it will still be at the center, right? So I hope anchors was a bit easier compared to X, Y, and Z. It's very useful, and if you use it a lot in the projects, right, to work with responsive designs. I'll also like work around the project in the next couple of videos. In that I will show you how to position elements properly using anchors. But let's take a simple example right now, right? So this rectangle is at the center of the parent, right? What if I want another rectangle just below this one, right? So let's say I want another rectangle. Let me copy the width and height, and for the color I'll say red, right? And by default it will be at the top left, right? Yeah, I want this rectangle to be below this rectangle, right? So how can I achieve that? Let's think for a bit. I have to use anchors. Now let's draw it on the whiteboard. Let's say this is our window, this is our center rectangle, right? If I want another rectangle just below this, this is the top of the bottom rectangle, right? This part, and this is the bottom of the center rectangle. So the top of this bottom rectangle will be equal to the bottom of the centered rectangle. Are you getting me? So what I'll say is anchors dot top of, let me give it an ID of second rectangle. So the second rectangle's top will be this one's bottom. Let's run the application once. Okay, you'll see a problem. It will be on the left. Yeah. This is because we only set the top property, but by default the left is still the parent's left. So we'll also set the left to be, now you can do it in two ways, right? One way is to say anchors dot horizontal center. Now I know this video will be too long, but please bear with me. Like, you learn a lot about anchoring, right? And after this video, you won't be needing any other video like to understand how anchoring works. That's my promise. So this is one way of doing it, right? To center it in the window. This is one way we have like understood how this works, right? It's nothing but centering it horizontally, right? We know this. Now what if I do this? Just think for a bit, right? If I say anchors dot left is nothing but the centered rectangle, let me call it centered rectangle. I think it will be easier to understand. My bad. See, let me make it more clear. This is the window, this is the centered rectangle, and this is my rectangle, right? Now, sorry for my bad background. Yeah, the bottom of the centered rectangle is nothing but the top of the second rectangle, right? And the left of the centered rectangle should be equal to the left of my new rectangle, right? So what if I say my new rectangle's left is nothing but my centered rectangle's left? Let's see what happens. It's the same thing, right? Now how did this happen? Like, what did we do? See, if this is the window and the rectangle is here, right? If you say this rectangle's left, you are pointing to this position, and somehow let's say you create a rectangle here. Now this left and this left are equal, right? This right and this right are equal. Again, let's say this is one rectangle, right? And this is another rectangle. So this bottom and this top are equal, right? Similarly, this top and this above rectangles bottom are equal. So I hope you're getting me, right? This right and this right are equal. Now, if you take this example, this bottom and this top are equal, but this right and this right are not equal, right? I hope you are getting me. Let's take one final example to make it more clear. This bottom and this top are equal. This right and this right is not equal. This left and this left is not equal. I hope this is clear. But if I do something like this, then this right and this left are equal. This bottom and this top are equal. So I hope now it's clear how we achieve this thing, right? So yeah. Now, if you look closely, this looks a bit ugly, right? The two rectangles are exactly sticking with each other. We want some spacing, right? We want some spacing, and spacing here is nothing but margin. So if I say anchors dot top margin is nothing, is let's say 20, right? This is the bottom rectangle, and I am telling it that hey, if I give you a position, let's say this is the top rectangle and this is the bottom rectangle, right? Let's say the top will be here, right? But if I give you this position, give me some margin, right? Let's create a rectangle here, give it some space. So this space is nothing but the margin, right? So if I say margin of 20, you will see it will go a bit down from that position. It will be pushed down. Yeah, as you can see, it was pushed down a bit, right? So this is how margins work. Now if I completely remove this one, and if I remove this part as well, yeah, now if I run the application, it's a simple plain rectangle at the top left. Now if I specify anchors dot left is nothing but parent dot left, and anchors dot right is, sorry, not right, anchors dot top is parent dot top. Now if I run the application, you will see nothing changes, right? It will still be at the top left, but now what we can do is we'll say anchors dot left margin is, let's say, 40, and anchors dot top margin is, let's say, again 40. Now you will see it will be a bit like, it will be a bit spaced out from the exact edge, right? If you see there is a space, right? Now what happens if you omit this, if you remove this, will it still work? Let's see. As you can see, it did not work, right? But you'll say, hey, by default the left and top are set, right? But no, if you are specifying left margin and top margin, you also have to specify this left and top property, right? You cannot just leave it by default. If you do that, then this margin will not be set. So be very careful here, right? If you have to specify margin, you need to manually enter top and left, right? So that's a catch. And then there is horizontal center, there is vertical center, and there is anchors dot center in parent, right? This was a property. So now I hope you got some bit knowledge about anchoring and how it works. Now there is one more thing left, right? Let's say we have a rectangle, right? And let's say we give it a color of let's say blue. By default we have not given any width and height, so the rectangle will not be visible, because by default the width will be 0, height will be 0, right? So what if I want this rectangle to completely fill the window, right? I can manually give the width and height to be 640 and 480, right? But that's not a good way. So one way of doing filling this is, I'll say anchors dot fill parent. What this does is it will completely like fill the width and height to be equal to that of the parent. Yeah, if you increase the window size, you'll see that the width and height are also changing, right? Yeah. Now if I let me show you something more interesting, right? If I say anchors dot left is parent dot left, and if I say anchors dot right is parent dot right, what do you think will happen? And if I, let's say, give it some height of, let's say, 50, right? If you have guessed that it will cover the entire width, you're right. Let's see how. Yeah, if you see, it covered the entire width. Now, what just happened, right? Let's discuss that. So, let's say this is our window, right? And we are creating a rectangle, right? The height is 50. That's guaranteed, right? Now we are saying the left part of this window, sorry, the left part of this rectangle and the left part of this window are the same. And we are also saying the right part of this rectangle and the right part of this window are the same. So, and the height is 50. So it will be created like this. That's why indirectly you are filling the entire width, right? Because the left part of this rectangle and the right part of this rectangle are aligning with the left and right of the window, right? Now, let me show you in another way, this time manipulating the top and the bottom, right? So it will be more clear to you. If I say anchors.top is parent.top, anchors.bottom is parent.bottom, and this time the width is, let's say, 50. Now let's see what happens. It will be a vertical column. Yeah, it's a vertical column, and as you can see, it completely fills the windows top and bottom, right? So I hope you are getting me. Now, what if I also set the left? Let's say anchors.left is parent.left, and I set anchors.right is parent.right. If you have guessed correctly, it will exactly fill the window. Like, it will completely fill the window. Let's see. And if I increase the width and height, you'll see the width and height changes manually, right? So instead of like doing this, what we were doing is we were setting anchors dot fill parent. So internally, this thing does the same as this, and I think that's all about anchors. If you like are using anchors, one thing you will need to know is there is something called margins, and instead of just setting the margins to be 20 like this, let's see how it works, right? Let's run the application once. Yeah, as you can see, there are margins across the rectangle, but this is not a good way. If you like have to set the margins, I really suggest you to set the left margin, the top margin, the right margin, and the bottom margin, so that it's clear later actually how much margin was set for each, right? This is one easy way of doing it. Like, if you are using anchors.fill parent, you can go with this. But if you are setting left, top, right, bottom manually, right, then you should also set the margin manually. I think that's a good practice, right? So I think this was all about anchors. I hope you like the video, and thank you. I know this became a very long video of 25 minutes, but actually anchors is very important, because most of the time if you like face some issue like an item is not showing, or a rectangle is not being displayed, or the size of the rectangle is not changing if you increase the width and the height of the window, right? If you change the dimension, like if this is the window, let's say, let me read the application once. Yeah, if you like change the size of the window, like something is not working properly, right? The app is breaking. So most probably there are problems with anchors, and how you have like anchored all the elements, how you have filled the elements, or how the elements are aligned properly, right? So this was a very important lecture, and thank you for watching. Have a nice day.